The story begins with a young boy named Junbu who lives with his parents and sister. He used to devote all of his time with playing live video games. He had craze of playing public game. Just like this, one day he's busy and playing this, but his family isn't at home. Junbu was sitting in his room playing a video game while also live streaming. Everything seemed normal, but then something strange started to happen. Suddenly, people in his chat box began typing the same message over and over again. Run. Get out now. At first, Junbu thought it was just a prank by his fans, but then he received a government emergency alert on his phone, and at that exact moment, a loud explosion was heard from outside. Soon after, screams filled the air. Confused, Junbu went to the balcony. The moment he looked outside, he was horrified. The entire area was in chaos. People were running for their lives. Some were jumping from buildings. Others were screaming. A fire truck had gone out of control and crashed into the road. Then his eyes caught a terrifying sight. One person was biting another like an animal. Junbu couldn't understand what was happening. Just then, he saw a mother running with a knife, trying to save her little daughter. But the moment she grabbed her, the girl suddenly turned on her and began biting her own mother. Junbu was shaken to his core. He had no idea what to do next. Just then, someone started banging loudly on the door of his apartment. He carefully peeked outside, but everything seemed quiet. Gathering some courage, he opened the door, and suddenly, a man rushed inside. It was his neighbor, Sang-shul, with whom he didn't get along very well. Junbu panicked and told him to leave, but Sang-shul pleaded, saying he just needed to use the bathroom for a minute. Hesitant, Junbu agreed and turned on the TV. That's when he learned the truth. A strange and dangerous virus had spread throughout the city. This virus was turning humans into dangerous, zombie-like creatures, and if someone got bitten, they would turn as well. Hearing this, Junbu noticed the bloodstains on Sang-shul's clothes. His suspicion grew. He quickly grabbed a knife and shouted at him to get out. Sang-shul kept insisting that he was fine, but suddenly his eyes turned red, and his face began to change. He was transforming into a zombie. Terrified and angry, Junbu used all his strength to push him out and slammed the door shut. But he hadn't even had time to catch his breath when a new problem arose. Because of the noise, the nearby zombies had been alerted, and outside, Sang-shul, now fully transformed into a zombie. At that moment, another zombie came and brutally killed him. Junbu's condition was now completely deteriorating. What he had witnessed with his own eyes was no less than a nightmare. In panic, the first thing he did was drag his refrigerator and block the door so that no zombie could get inside. After that, he nervously tried calling his parents, just to know if they were still safe. But there was no response from any number. His heart was racing. After some time, he finally received a short message from his mother. "We are safe for now. Don't leave the house and wait for rescue." Reading this gave Junbu a bit of relief, but the fear still lingered. When night fell, he checked the food supplies he had left. There was very little. At first, he divided it into 7 portions, so it could last a few days. But then he reconsidered. What if the rescue team took longer to arrive? So he divided the same food into 9 smaller portions. Now, all he had was a little food and a fragile sense of hope. The next morning, he turned on the internet, hoping to understand what was happening in the world. There, he found videos of people desperately crying for help, begging for their lives. He wasn't alone, but seeing this made things even more terrifying. Inspired by this, Junbu also recorded a video on his phone. A plea, a cry for help, hoping someone might hear his voice. But as time passed, his hope began to fade. Some people were even live streaming as death approached them. He realized that if there had been any help coming, it probably would have arrived by now. But no one had come. Just then, his eyes fell on a small drone lying in his room. An idea struck him. He quickly connected his phone to the drone and sent it outside the apartment to see what was happening around. The footage from the drone's camera was horrifying. The entire building and colony had turned into a battlefield. Blood, screams, and zombies were everywhere. Not a single human seemed to be alive. It felt like there was no hope left. Exhausted, Junbu tried to distract himself by playing the game he had been playing earlier. But as soon as he logged in, a message appeared. Server disconnected. It seemed like even the internet was failing now. Perhaps the zombie outbreak had started destroying the server systems as well. With no games and no videos to watch, Junbu decided to get some sleep. But around 2:30 at night, he suddenly woke up to strange noises coming from below. Curious and slightly anxious, he walked to the window and looked down. Suddenly, a bullet whizzed past his ear. For a moment, he was frozen in terror. But what he saw next was even more shocking. A female police officer was fighting alone against a horde of zombies. She was incredibly brave, fearlessly taking them down with her gun, but every gunshot was attracting more zombies toward her. And now, her rifle had run out of bullets. As she tried to reload, a zombie suddenly attacked her and knocked her to the ground. That officer was now surrounded from all sides. The zombies had lunged at her. Accepting defeat, she raised her gun and placed it against her own head. Perhaps she was about to end her own life, but she didn't even get the chance. Two zombies grabbed her hands and dragged her toward the building's parking lot. Many other zombies were already hiding there. Witnessing this scene, Junwoo's eyes filled with tears. He couldn't just watch all this in silence. He began to scream with all his might, just so the zombies would turn their attention away from that woman and come to all aboard him. But by then it was too late. Neither could that woman be saved, nor did his effort work. But now, a new trouble had arrived at Junwoo's door. Suddenly there was the sound of a loud explosion. The fridge placed behind the door shook violently. Someone had kicked it from the outside. It was none other than that terrifying zombie who had killed his neighbor, Sang-chul. Now he was coming straight for Junwoo. Out of fear, Junwoo immediately tried to push the fridge against the door again, but that zombie was so powerful that he could break the door at any moment. Meanwhile, an idea came to Junwoo's mind. This zombie is not smart, but I am. As soon as the zombie began breaking the door, Junwoo ran to the balcony and, without thinking, hung down from the railing. The zombie jumped while chasing him, but fell straight down from the tall building. Junwoo could hardly catch the balcony grill, but somehow, balancing himself, he climbed back up. Once again, he narrowly escaped the jaws of death. But now he knew that if such moments kept coming, it wouldn't be easy to stay alive for long. As soon as Junwoo looked down, his heart shattered. The brave woman police officer he wanted to save had now become a zombie herself. Looking at her, it felt as if humanity had given up. Now, Junwoo was completely broken. He closed his door even more tightly, as if he wanted to completely separate himself from this terrifying world. He gave up hope on the outside world. Now, his life remained only within four walls. He took out his father's old liquor bottles and slowly began to drink. When he felt hungry, he ate instant noodles. When he got tired, he slept, and when his heart broke, he cried silently. A strange silence had become a part of his life, but this silence could not last for many days. Gradually, his food and drink supplies also began to run out. Now the situation had gone from bad to worse. He began to feel that his end was near, but then fate knocked one last time. A voice message from his mother came on his mobile. A faint ray of hope appeared, but the signal was very weak. The message was not playing. Junwoo took a big risk. He climbed out of his apartment window so he could get a better network on his mobile. Somehow he caught the signal, but what he heard in that message shook his very soul. The message contained the painful screams of his mother and father. The zombies had attacked them. Junwoo just kept listening, helpless and powerless. Now he had no one left. The news of his parents' death broke him to his core. He felt that there was no longer any point in living, but instead of giving up, he decided to let out the pain inside him. He was filled with rage and grief. He opened the door and attacked the first zombie he saw. He deliberately made a lot of noise so that more zombies would be attracted to him. But when there was no reaction, he fearfully took a step outside. As soon as he stepped out, a large pack of zombies came charging toward him. Junwoo was prepared, but deep down, he was terrified. He ran like a madman. The shadow of death was everywhere. He immediately pressed the elevator button, but just then, another large swarm of zombies lunged at him. Somehow, he hid behind a nearby trash bin and sat there, holding his breath. The zombies passed by and luckily didn't see him. Finding an opportunity, he immediately ran toward his apartment. But then, he heard the sound of footsteps behind him. Fortunately, the zombie chasing him was blind and couldn't see him. Without delay, Junwoo opened his flat door and locked himself inside. However, even the slight noise he made began to attract the zombies. The shocking part was that some zombies still carried faint memories of being human. They began trying to open the door as if they were used to turning a knob, but after trying for a while, they grew tired and left. That night, Junwoo accepted that his journey had ended there. The death of his parents, loneliness, hunger, and fear had hollowed him out from within. He had given up on himself. When all hope inside had died out, he recorded one last video in front of his mobile camera, a goodbye to the world and to himself. But just as he was about to end it all, a flashing red light appeared through his window. That light was coming from the building opposite him. Junwoo stopped suddenly, his eyes fixed on that light, and then he saw a girl there, young, smart, and alive. She signaled with a red flashlight, looked toward Junwoo, and uttered just one word, "Idiot." But to Junwoo, this insult felt like nothing less than a gift. Finding another living person amidst such destruction pulled him back toward life. He smiled and waved back. After a while, the girl signaled with her hand that she would talk to him at 7 a.m. Both then returned to their respective rooms. That girl's name was Kim Yubin. She was alive, just like Junwoo, but there was something special about her. She was incredibly smart and tough in this survival situation. Kim had secured her apartment well and stored her food supplies carefully, using everything in limited quantities. She had even set up various traps in her room so that if a zombie did manage to get in, it wouldn't leave alive. The next morning, when the two exchanged names through gestures, Junwoo was overjoyed, but he was also starving at that moment. His stomach was aching. Seeing his condition, Kim decided she must send him some food. She came up with a plan. She tied a rope to a baseball and tried to throw it to the opposite building to create a sort of bridge between the two apartments. However, her estimate of the distance was slightly off. Fortunately, Junwoo understood what Kim was trying to do. He immediately took out his drone, tied the rope to it, and flew it directly to Kim. The idea worked. Soon, Kim tied a food packet to the rope and sent it over to him. A smile appeared on Junwoo's face for the first time. He had eaten a proper meal after many days. But this relief did not last long. Suddenly, a fireman who had turned into a zombie spotted the rope and the baseball. He slowly began moving in that direction. Junwoo immediately warned Kim. Kim tried to untie the rope, but just then, the zombie pulled the rope with such force that a heavy table fell on Kim, knocking her unconscious. Now, the situation had turned even worse. That zombie was not like an ordinary one. It seemed to possess a lingering, human-like ability to think. It began climbing the building wall directly, heading toward Kim's room. Junwoo picked up a nearby bottle and threw it at the zombie to distract it, but it had no effect. He wasn't going to stop. As a final effort, Junwoo flew his drone again. This time, he hovered it right near the zombie's face to irritate it. The tactic worked for a moment, but the zombie struck the drone with a powerful blow in anger, and it fell. Just as the zombie was about to enter Kim's room, she fortunately regained consciousness. She stood up quickly and saved herself. That same evening it began to rain heavily. Both took advantage of the opportunity, placing pots and bowls outside to collect water. After so many days, they saw a glimmer of hope in the form of water. Then, Kim took out her binoculars and saw something interesting. There were no zombies on the 8th floor of a nearby building. Perhaps there was something special there, or perhaps it was an opportunity. Time was now moving fast, but the little food they had left was almost gone. Things had reached a point where if they wanted to stay alive, They had to leave the apartments and arrange for food. The fear was there, but the hunger had become life-threatening. That night, Junwoo decided he would go out himself to find some food. He wrapped towels around his feet so he wouldn't make any noise while walking, took a baseball bat in his hand, and slowly opened the door. Everything in the corridor outside was silent and terrifying. While walking, his eyes fell on a corpse. It belonged to one of his neighbors. Some keys were lying near the body. Junwoo picked up the keys and opened the door to a nearby flat. As soon as he went inside, a man was lying on the floor. He cautiously picked up a shoe and threw it at him. There was no movement. It seemed he was dead. Feeling a bit relieved, Junwoo began searching the entire house. As soon as he opened the fridge, the smell of rotten food made him want to vomit, but thankfully some canned food and drinks were still intact. He packed them and prepared to head back. On his way out, he found more food packets and 2 walkie-talkies. But right there, he made a mistake. Out of curiosity, he tried to take a closer look at the corpse, and suddenly, a zombie pounced on him from behind. Junwoo quickly used the corpse as a shield and blocked the zombie's attack. Then, without looking back, he ran toward his flat and slammed the door shut. His heart was pounding wildly, but his life was saved. That night, for the first time in days, Junwoo ate a full and peaceful meal. He then placed half the food and 1 walkie-talkie in a box and sent it to Kim's building via the rope. The next morning, Kim's sweet voice was heard over the walkie-talkie. She said thank you. For Junwoo, it was an emotional moment. Hearing a human voice after so many days felt like hope returning. Now, the two began talking on the walkie-talkie every day. Their friendship became a new light in this ruined world. In their conversations, they would laugh and also share their fears, but it was their mutual support that kept them strong. During this time, one evening while they were talking comfortably, they heard a strange sound, as if it were raining outside. Junwoo rushed to the window, hoping to collect water, but as soon as he opened the window, the color drained from his face. It wasn't rain, it was the echo of running footsteps of zombies. He didn't know why, but this time all the zombies had gone mad together and were rushing toward buildings. Junwoo and Kim both immediately lay down on the floor. Now, even a slight sound could mean their death. Kim picked up an axe she had kept nearby, but by mistake, her hand struck a shelf, and it fell loudly. Upon hearing the sound, the zombies' attention shifted toward her. They slowly began moving toward her apartment. Kim panicked as the sound of footsteps near the door grew louder. Just then, Junwoo immediately asked for her apartment number over the walkie-talkie. As the zombies reached her door, a mobile phone ringtone began to blare in the adjacent flat at that exact moment. The zombies turned that way, confused, and then the truth came out. Junwoo had cleverly called Kim's neighbor's mobile number to distract the zombies. His quick thinking saved Kim's life. Now, the situation had completely spiraled out of control. The floor, where Junwoo and Kim were living, had been taken over by zombies. On top of that, their food was almost gone. Staying there now was like embracing death. Together, they made a plan. They would now shift to the floor that Kim had previously scouted as being zombie-free. Kim tied a rope securely from her apartment downward. Junwoo said that he would go first, but without listening or hesitating, Kim jumped straight from her apartment. As soon as she landed, zombies from all sides lunged at her. But Kim was prepared. She immediately took out her climbing pick and began cutting through the zombies to move forward. Watching all this from above, Junwoo was stunned, but in the next moment a zombie pushed Kim from behind and she fell. At that same time, Junwoo also jumped down and struck that zombie. Dragging Kim along, he brought her inside through the stairs, and together they slammed the glass door shut. The swarm of zombies was right behind them, and the door was about to break. In such a situation, they immediately jumped into the elevator. Luckily, the backup power in the elevator was still working. The elevator took them directly to that 8th floor they had previously scouted. There wasn't much danger there. Upon reaching the floor, they began checking the doors one by one to find a safe room. But just then, they saw a lone zombie in the corridor. Junwoo thought that since it was alone, it could be handled. But as he moved forward, a whole swarm of zombies burst in from the stairwell. The situation had now become completely uncontrollable. Kim began frantically trying to open the doors, while Junwoo broke a gate to block the zombies' path. Suddenly, a door opened and a hand reached out, pulling Kim inside. Within seconds, a smoke grenade was tossed into the hallway, and a mysterious man appeared, pulling Junwoo in as well. For the moment, both were safe, but Kim remained alert because she remembered this floor was supposed to be entirely empty. So, how was this man here? The man brought water and said, "Don't be afraid, I can understand what you're going through." He looked exhausted himself. Once he drank the water in a single gulp, Junwoo and Kim finally began to drink slowly. The man seemed quite friendly. Then he brought out some food. Both were so hungry that they pounced on it the moment they saw it. The man said, "Eat slowly. I heard on the radio that the rescue team is on its way." Hearing this, a spark of hope returned to the eyes of Junwoo and Kim. For the first time in days, they felt they might actually survive. But then, Kim felt something strange. She scanned the room. There were family photos on the walls, but none of them matched the man. She grew confused, and suddenly, Junwoo collapsed unconscious beside her. Kim panicked, but her vision too began to blur, and within seconds, she fell to the floor. The true face of that mysterious man was about to be revealed. As Kim regained consciousness, she found herself in a strange room. Before her eyes was a woman tied with a chain. Her eyes were red, and her body moved with eerie twitches. Then Kim realized this was none other than the man's wife. But he had turned completely into a zombie. The man didn't want to lose his wife at any cost, so even after she turned, he kept her with him. To satisfy her hunger, he would quietly bring other survivors to feed her. The original families of this building had all become victims of this horrific hunger. Kim was now facing the real threat, not just a zombie, but human madness. From outside, the man began slowly loosening the rope the zombie wife was tied with. Kim's scream echoed, but she had nowhere to run. Shivering with fear, she began to back away. At that moment, Junwoo's eyes opened. Realizing the situation, he pulled himself up, stumbling, and aimed a gun at the man. But the man was perfectly calm, as if he had accepted defeat. There was only exhaustion in his eyes. Junwoo stepped forward to grab the rope, but the zombie was so powerful he couldn't control her. The rope slipped from his hand, and the danger drew closer. He ran to the door, but it was locked from the inside. The next moment, a painful scream echoed in the room, followed by total silence. Was it all over? The reality was different. Kim had shown her smarts. She had used a pillow against the zombie's mouth to save herself. But the man was still looking at the zombie woman with the same love as before. Kim could not bear it any longer. She picked up the gun and ended both of them right there. However, the sound of that single gunshot woke every zombie in the building. From all sides, the monstrous horde began breaking down the doors. Now, they had only two choices: fight or prepare to die. Kim and Junwoo looked at each other, shared a faint smile, and picked up their weapons. But then, a loud sound came. A helicopter. They ran toward the window, and a spark of hope raced through their eyes. A rescue helicopter had truly arrived. Gathering their courage, they ran, dodging zombies to reach the roof. On the way, Junwoo threw a bicycle into the crowd of zombies to stall them. Reaching the top, they slammed the door shut, but the zombies were already breaking it down. Meanwhile, the helicopter spotted them and began firing all around. Finally, both were rescued. After leaving that place, signal restores, and they become happy after seeing messages of their friends. Other survivors began sending SOS signals as well, and with that, this story full of thrill and survival comes to an end.